This is all due to ETF fever. Bitcoin ETF does exist in other countries already, like Canada, for example. But in the US, it's just massive. All the money's here. Wall Street's here, right? Everyone is looking at US and seeing what the US is going to do. You know, the funny thing is, no one seems to remember about Gary Gensler, right? Like all of last week, we didn't hear a peep out of Gary Gensler or the SEC. What happened to the lawsuit with Coinbase and Binance? It seems like no one cares or no one takes it seriously since Blackrock said, yeah, Gary, you know what? We're going to need you to approve our Bitcoin ETF. And since then, everyone's been jumping in. And we have another exchange that even got released last week, right? Like I didn't even have time to look at that exchange. We have a new exchange backed by Charles Schwab and Fidelity and the 3 other banks, right? That opened up like all of a sudden on top of all the Bitcoin ETF news. I mean, it's just an onslaught of good things that happen, and more will be coming. ProShares already has a future-based Bitcoin ETF. Not the same. It's not settled or using real Bitcoins, just using Bitcoin futures. However, the volume is exploding right now because everyone wants a piece. That's what's happening right now. These big boys all want a piece of the pie. I've been telling you guys for over a year, you know, FOMO is real. It happens to everyone. And a lot of these big boys been accumulating behind the scenes. Why do you think BlackRock all of a sudden wants to offer a Bitcoin ETF? They've probably been accumulating Bitcoin since, who knows? Who knows? Also, in terms of whale ratio is plummeting. And what is whale ratio? Well, the Bitcoins that's going into the exchanges, okay? When you see a large number of that, a large number of Bitcoin coming into the exchanges from whales, that's bad. But when the whale numbers start dropping, that's good. That's good. That means the whales are accumulating and not selling, right? Just like, look at what happened in November. Look at that huge drop, right? That was when Bitcoin fell to its low point. And look at right now, we just had a huge drop, meaning the whales are like, okay, we're not going to be selling anymore. We're going to be accumulating and buying, right? That's what's happening. That's what's happening right now. But as for the rest of us that are not bearish, you know, we're eyeing the next step, right? The next leg up. Where is Bitcoin going to go? Well, in July is right around the corner. July is traditionally a very bullish month. Very bullish month. Remember, May is supposed to be a bad month. And we went down slightly in May. June has been pretty darn good so far, but we had to wait until basically the tail end of June. Now we're heading into July. And traditionally, July, we see at least a 20% bump. 20% from our 30,000 will bring us up to about 36,000. That's not too bad. Although there are many that think that we will go a lot higher than 36,000. People have predicted 40, 50,000 by July. 50% chance. That's pretty massive. Before, it was probably like 0% because no one thought that Gary or SEC is going to allow a Bitcoin spot ETF. But 50%, that's pretty good. And keep in mind, BlackRock is not the only one. There's a lot of fund managers and companies that are looking to come out. Fidelity announced they're doing a spot ETF. And of course, others like Ark Invest also has theirs. And there's just a ton of them. A ton of them, right? And look at all these other big boys, like the biggest banks like JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, BNY Mellon, Invesco, Bank of America. You know, they're either doing Bitcoin ETFs too or doing some kind of service, okay, like crypto trading or custodian or something. They're all involved. When you have $27 trillion of assets under management. Just a little bit, just a little tiny bit, 5% of that, if 5% went into Bitcoin, okay, just 5% of all those assets went in Bitcoin, that's around $310,000 per Bitcoin. Microstrategy purchased another 12,333 Bitcoin for approximately 347 million. I just rounded up, yes, 350 million. Okay, average price actually lower than where it is right now. Usually, you know, Sailor buys high and then announces it later. I don't know why, but recently he's been buying low, so that's good. So he's in a profit already. At an average price of $28,136, right? Now MicroStrategy holds 152,333. Average price of 29,668, and total 4.52 billion. Michael Saylor is preparing for the future. GBTC, their premium discount from, well, before there was a premium, now there's a discount, okay? Versus GBTC is supposed to be tracking the price of Bitcoin right now. There's still a 33% discount, but that is the narrowest gap in over a year. It used to be in the 40s, okay? But demand is coming up, the discount may be narrowing. I mean, if you're thinking, well, what does it matter? Can you redeem for Bitcoins? No, you can't. But it just shows you demand for Bitcoin or Bitcoin-related stocks, in this case, a trust, is heating up. This shows that Bitcoin is heading to 200,000 and possibly beyond. And we're talking about the Wyckoff Accumulation, Wyckoff pattern. And here's another one that extends it, Wyckoff Logic, okay? And Wyckoff is basically this guy from like 100 years ago that figured out that there's a pattern that stocks go through when there's large whales or institutions that's trying to accumulate and trying to cause people, retail people, to sell. There's certain things that they do for whatever reason, right? And people figured out a few years ago that Wyckoff also can be seen, this pattern can be seen in cryptos, specifically Bitcoin, because all these institutions, whales, start coming into Bitcoin, right? So if you're following this is what's coming, all right? We broke out of accumulation stage. We're about to head into the markup stage, and it makes sense because this is leading up to the halving event, right? But keep in mind, with all the whales and institutions and Bitcoin ETFs that's coming up, right? There's going to be so much money coming in. Who knows what this pattern is really going to look like and how high Bitcoin will end up. Even Cathie Wood says, you know, first of all, her application for Bitcoin spot ETF is before Blackrock, so she may get the very first one. She may get the very first Bitcoin spot ETF, right? But she's very bullish. Of course, Ark Invest is very bullish, has been for a long time, right? So we'll see. But she also made some changes too. There's a surveillance sharing agreement that BlackRock put into theirs, and now Ark has done so too, basically allowing CBOEs to kind of track the performance. So basically having someone else look at the volatility, right? And many people think that this little addition is going to make a big difference, right? But if this gets approved, then you know BlackRock's going to get approved, Fidelity's going to get approved, and everyone else that has application will get approved. And think about the FOMO that's going to cause. North Carolina passes bill to study how holding Bitcoin can be profitable for the state. Wow. 73 out of the 120 members voting in favor, 40 against it, and the remaining 7 were absent. But basically sounds like North Carolina wants to start holding Bitcoin, just like everyone else. Why would you not want to? You don't need to study it. There's enough data out there. If they watch this channel, they would know, yeah, this is the way to go. This is the way to go. Okay, so now even states. We know some states are very favorable towards Bitcoin miners because it helps improve the power grid. It also brings a lot of revenue for the state, right? It makes sense. Now you're having states saying, okay, let's go beyond that. Options, expiration, volatility. Yeah, today is the last day. So today the monthly close. And I guess what we're seeing is volatility, right? Whenever you have futures and options closing, especially on the last Friday of every month, you have sometimes crazy volatilities because the bears and bulls are fighting it out and trying to make a statement, right? Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Right now, it seems like it's one of those times.